All right, this is Thursday's Read Aloud. We are reading Christmas in Camelot, and we are on chapter 7. We're going to read chapter 7 and 8 today. And I actually realized this is one of the first books that has 16 chapters, and so we're not going to be able to finish this week. But that's okay. This is a really good book. All right, chapter 7, A Good Trick. As the wind blew away more fog, Jack and Annie saw a bridge. It was made of thick wooden planks held together with iron bands. It stretched all the way from the edge of the cliff where they were standing to the iron gate. "Come on, let's go," said Annie. "Wait," said Jack. "What about the guards?" The two guards in gold armor stood perfectly still. Their huge spears gleamed in the torchlight. "I don't know," said Annie. "Read the second rhyme." Jack looked in his notebook and read aloud. 4 gifts you will need. The first from me, then a cup, a compass, and finally a key. The first gift is the Christmas night's cloak, said Annie. Yeah, I guess it's supposed to help us somehow, said Annie. He unbuttoned the cloak from around his neck. Then he held it out to get a good look at it. Maybe it can make us invisible, said Annie. That's nuts, said Jack. Seriously, she said. Cloaks sometimes do that in the stores. Here's a picture. So there's Jack and Annie. Here's the drawbridge, and there is the tall castle and the 2 knights standing there guarding the gates. Well, it didn't make me invisible, did it? Said Jack. Maybe you were wearing it wrong, said Annie. Give it to me. Oh, brother, said Jack. But he handed the cloak to Annie. It flapped in the wind as she pulled it around her shoulders. Can you see me? She said. Yes, Annie, said Jack, rolling his eyes. I can see you. Jack looked back at the gate. Even if we get past the guards, what then? He wondered. The other world swallowed up Camelot's best knights. King Arthur said it was filled with magic and monsters. Jack, look at me now. Jack turned to Annie. She wasn't there. Well, where are you? He said, staring at the darkness. Cool, it works. Where are you? Jack said again, turning around. Here. Jack felt a hand touch his face. Ah, he said, jumping back. It's me, I'm invisible. I pulled the hood over my head. That's the trick. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. Oh, man, he whispered. Watch, I'm going to take the hood off. In a flash, Annie was back. It feels creepy to be invisible, she said. Jack was speechless. The magic only happens when you wear the hood, said Annie. Great trick, huh? Yeah, said Jack. He shook his head. This is just too weird. Don't worry about it being weird. It's a great way to get past the guards, said Annie. Plus, it's a way to hide in the other world. We don't know what we'll find there, right? Yeah, right, said Jack. Okay. Good, said Annie. Now, stand beside me and don't move. Jack put away his notebook. Annie threw the velvet cloak over his shoulders and backpack. Great, it's big enough for both of us, she said. She carefully arranged the folds around them. Then she pulled the huge hood over both of their heads. Jack looked down. He couldn't see his body at all. He felt like he couldn't breathe. In a panic, he threw off the hood. I hate that, he said. I told you it's creepy, said Annie. But if we don't wear it, we won't get past the guards. Yeah, I know, and we won't have protection in the other world, said Jack. He took a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. Let's do it. Annie pulled the hood up again. I'll hold on to the hood so it won't blow off, she said. You just think about getting across that bridge, nothing else. But I can't see my feet, said Jack. You don't need to see your feet to walk, said Annie. Come on, do it for Morgan. Right, said Jack. He and Annie stepped onto the bridge. Whatever you do, don't look down, said Annie. As they started over the bridge, the wind whistled around them. Jack couldn't help it. He looked down. Not only was his body missing, but the fog beneath the bridge was moving in a wild, spinning whirl. Jack felt dizzy and faint. He stopped. Keep going, whispered Annie. Jack took a deep breath and looked straight ahead. Then he started walking again. He went slowly, step by step, toward the pale light beyond the bars of the gate. In the flickering torchlight, the guards looked like giants. As Jack and Annie slipped invisibly by them, Jack held his breath. How will we open the gate? He wondered. Whoosh, said Annie loudly. I just scared my dog. Jack's heart nearly stopped. Had Annie lost her mind? What are you doing? He whispered. I'm the wind, Annie whispered back. Whoosh! Annie gave the gate a shove. It swung open as if pushed by the wind. Jack looked back and saw the guards had turned in their direction. Quick, whispered Annie. She and Jack moved silently through the gateway. Whoosh, said Annie. She pushed the gate back. It shut with a clang. Through the bars, Jack saw the guards face the bridge again. Good work, he said to Annie. Thanks, she said. Jack and Annie then turned away from the gate. Oh, whispered Annie. The other world, whispered Jack. Okay, chapter 8. Are y'all ready? Chapter 8 is called The Other World. The other world was completely different from the dark, cold world Jack and Annie had just left behind. They were standing at the edge of a pale green meadow. The meadow was bathed in warm, rosy sunlight. 3 horses, one black, one brown, and one gray, were grazing nearby. On a hillside beyond the meadow, red and purple flowers sparkled like bright buttons. It's so nice here, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. Maybe we don't need this anymore. He pulled the hood off the cloak, off their heads. He was relieved to see Annie's face and to see himself. What was that first rhyme again? Asked Annie. Jack took out his notebook and he found the first rhyme and read aloud. Beyond the iron gate, the keepers of the cauldron wait. He looked around warily. I wonder where the keepers of the cauldron are, he said. What do you mean? Asked Annie. We just sneaked past them, remember? Whoosh. I don't know, said Jack. The rhyme says beyond the iron gate. Those guards were standing in front of the gate. They weren't beyond it. Shh, said Annie. Listen. From over the hill came the faint sounds of sweet, joyful music. Maybe the keepers of the cauldron are playing that music, said Annie. Maybe, said Jack. He listened for a moment and smiled. The music made him feel light and happy. Let's go meet the keepers, said Annie. Not so fast, said Jack. Shouldn't we be invisible again, just in case? I guess so, said Annie, sighing. Jack pulled the hood of the cloak over their heads. Together they started walking invisibly across the soft meadow. They passed the 3 horses and climbed the flower-covered hill. At the top they looked down. Oh, man, said Jack. The hill sloped gently down into a misty green glade. In the middle of the glade, a band of musicians played flutes and pipes, drums and violins. Around the band, hundreds of dancers danced in a huge circle. The keepers of the cauldron, said Annie. The dancers and musicians were smiling and laughing. They wore blue coats and green coats, white gowns and yellow gowns. They wore sparkling red slippers and hats with colored feathers. The dancers looked like people, except they all had glittering gold skin and wings that shimmered in the mist like spun silver. They're beautiful, said Annie. Yeah, they are, said Jack. I don't think we need to be invisible with them, said Annie. I think you're right, said Jack. He and Annie threw off the red cloak. They left it in the dewy grass and ran down the hillside to the winged dancers. The dancers paid no attention to them. They just kept going around and around in their joyous circle. I feel like dancing with them, said Annie. Me too, said Jack. It was strange. He was usually shy about dancing, but he wanted to join this dance more than anything. Jack pulled off his backpack. As he set it down, He saw 3 swords lying in the grass, but he didn't stop to wonder about them. The music was calling. The winged dancers broke their circle and welcomed Jack and Annie into their dance. Annie held Jack's hand as he grasped the slender golden hand of the dancer on his left. The dancer smiled down at him. Like the others, she was as tall as a grown-up, but she didn't have any lines or wrinkles on her face. All the dancers looked very young, yet they seemed ancient at the same time. As Jack danced around in the circle, his heart leaped. His spirits soared. His glasses fell off, but he didn't care. He kept dancing. As he danced, everything in his mind became a blur. He forgot about Morgan and Camelot. He forgot about the quest for the water of memory and imagination. He forgot all his fears and worries. "Jack, look!" Annie cried. Jack looked at her. "Hi!" What does that say? He shouted, laughing. "No, don't look at me," she called. "Look there. Look across the circle." "I can't see," he said. "3 knights," Annie shouted. 3 knights dancing. "Great," Jack shouted. "No, Jack, they look awful. They look sick," Annie yelled. She pulled away from the circle and tumbled back into the grass. "Jack," she called, "stop dancing." But Jack didn't want to stop. He wanted to dance to the wild music forever, forever and ever and ever. Here's a picture. You'll see all the details in that picture. All right, that was the end of that chapter. Okay, so chapter 9, The Lost Knights, is where we will pick up. And since tomorrow is Good Friday, we will not actually have a read aloud on Friday because there's no classwork on Friday. So on Monday, we will start back with Christmas in Camelot on chapter 9. Okay, and the title is called The Lost Knights. So remember, Annie saw in the circle the knights, the 3 knights dancing. So what do you think? Why do you think they were dancing? And were they stuck there dancing? They didn't want to stop, just like Jack didn't want to stop? So hopefully Annie can come to the rescue of all these people that are stuck dancing. Okay, y'all have a great weekend. Have a good Easter, and I will see y'all on Monday. Bye.